Hi, I'm Coach MK, founder of the Fitness Protection Program. I'm a run coach, not a life coach. We're never really talking about the running. Running is the tool. It's the conduit we use to examine the world we live in, as well as its impact on our own lives and the lives of the people around us. How we react to certain people and to certain stories tells us a lot about how we view ourselves. I'm committed to the thoughtful, intentional exploration of the importance of running so that no one discounts their own badassery, ever. Final note, this podcast is geared towards every runner who won't lose their home, livelihood, or health insurance if they show up to the corral with a hangover. Not that I'm encouraging you to do that, just saying. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Fitness Protection Podcast. Hi, sorry before it took me a few minutes to get my act together. As you might have guessed, Coach Sarah is away, so I'm having to figure all this out on my own, and it's really hard to do while watching cameras. So I apologize for that. This is Coach MK, the founder of the Fitness Protection Program, and this is our weekly segment, Ask Away, where all of our clients write in burning questions, and we answer all of them one by one. We're going to start with counting the weekly wins for our beta testers in Runner Interrupted, which is our program for runners who are currently not running. For moving on to Rebuild, which is a program designed to help people return to running no matter how long it takes. And finally, answering the questions in Maintain, which is where people who have a modicum of fitness that they would like to maintain, including our marathoners, tend to hang out. When you train with us, the marathon plans are included free of charge. And we'll talk about that because it seems we have questions regarding that. Before we go any further, though, how are you doing, Coach Jen?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
You know, I could complain, but it would, frankly, would just be greedy. I had a good run this morning, and there was a whole lot of wind, and it reminded me of the Philadelphia Marathon in 2016. There's a whole lot of wind that day, too. Wind just isn't fun. You are never fit. You are never so fit that wind is no big deal.
Yeah, it really makes a big difference when it's windy out there and the speeds that you think you're going, you're just not going. It always seems like it's worse in your face. Like it doesn't seem to help as much in your back as it does hurt you in your face. So I believe that. But you're getting close. 2 weeks away?
Yeah.
Is this big race?
Yeah. You know, and I'm just excited to participate. The last 2 times I went into races with truly zero expectations. They ended up being really great days. I felt like strong and in control the whole time. And that's really what I'm going for here. It's not going to be like the fastest time. And I know that's really hard for a lot of our clients to kind of understand, because until you've had a good race, you can't have a great race. But a good race, as far as I'm concerned, is one where nothing terrible happens, right? You just go and it's like another long run and you finish and you're like, yay, I could have kept going, or done now. You know, it's not, I feel like people put so much pressure on it to be like this dramatic event that has to be worth everything they put into it. And no finish time will ever give that to you. I mean, you saw Steph Bruce. She ran a 2:27. That was a huge personal best. At that level, it's really, I mean, a personal best are usually counted in seconds, not in minutes. And that was a huge personal best for her. And she was still disappointed with it because it wasn't the time she was going for. She was going for something like a 2:26. So
yeah, but it's so hard when people put so much pressure on themselves for a specific time, which may or may not work on that given day. Mm-hmm. And you just have to go with what your body can give you on that day, and accept and do your best, and accept that it's going to be what it is. And like you said, just go in expecting to have a good day for what you can do, and that's all you can really ask.
Yeah. So. It's really true. It's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm very particular about setting ourselves up for success. And one of the questions I had to ask myself at the beginning of this training cycle, and ask my coach quite clearly, and we documented all our calls so far on the YouTube channel, saying, I don't know what this is going to be. Are you sure I can do this? And she was like, yeah, you'll be fine. you're stronger than you think you are. So it's always good to have that extra vote of confidence. At the same time, though, this has really kind of snuck up on me because it hasn't been like this huge focus and locus where I'm talking about my training all the time and I'm sort of performing the type of excitement that I think people expect from a marathoner. Because this is just what you do, and I have the option to do it because I'm strong enough and I'm recovered enough. The pressure really kind of goes away, and you see that at the end of it, it's going to be no different than it would have been if I had talked about it a lot and stressed about it a lot. What's in a better place really is my mental health.
That's awesome. No, yeah, no, it's so important, and there's nothing that you can say to discount that. I mean, that's so important to get to a place where you can be happy and satisfied with whatever happens, and not dwell on it in ways that are really detrimental to your mental health.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, how about you? How's your running going? Are you still?
I'm struggling a bit. I'm still trying to figure out how to manage this ankle issue, which comes and goes, and it never really slows me down to the point where I can't run anymore, but it definitely impedes my ability to perform the way I think I should be able to. And I know I hate saying that, but you know what I mean?
Okay.
Just having sort of expectations about where I could be. And, after a second failed physiotherapist experience, I don't know if I want to go back either to my old one or not, or just be able to manage it. So it's a bit frustrating, but I am running, and I had a more difficult than I expected 8-mile run today, but at least I did it. So that was okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, my run was really tough this win. Like I said, it took so much out of me. My heart rate was way higher than it normally was. I didn't feel as strong as I did last week. And it was like, it's a bad run can really set you back, both mentally and physically, obviously, but mentally it can be really huge. So I give you a lot of credit. You've been powering through a lot of really tough stuff, more than a lot of people that I can think of. And I love that how you have maintained such a level head throughout. So I couldn't be prouder to have you leading this very vulnerable group of people. Running more slowly than you want to go in any given moment is the hardest thing most runners will ever do. So imagine how hard it is to stop.
That's right. Yeah, and I've definitely been there before too, where I've had to stop, or I've had to really step back in what I can do with running. So I'm glad I can do it now, but there's been plenty of times when I couldn't, and I've definitely been in that position before. So, and on that note, I think we can maybe look at these weekly wins that some of our runner interrupted runners have sent in. Can I read some of these?
Let's do it.
Okay. So I don't know if there one on here before, but I have the ones that people have written on Facebook that I'll read here. That for one person, she said, her weekly win was that I didn't have a total emotional meltdown when it became evident that I need to take my husband to more or different doctors to deal with his lower back problems now that his neck and pinched nerve problems are mostly maintaining balance. She's had a terrible time. She's been amazing supporting her husband through a very difficult and painful injury that he's had to deal with. And that's mostly been why she hasn't been able to run as much or at all lately the way she used to be able to. So that weekly win for her was not having that emotional meltdown, and also not losing control when trying to process paperwork on medical billing. And she goes on to add, it's like I live in a special zone of medical hell each day, and no volume of good deeds will ever get me out of here. So yeah, she's had very, very strong challenges in that area. So
you must be so glad to be Canadian.
Yeah, well, we definitely don't have the same kind of health challenges as far as bills and dealing with insurance issues like that. But of course, we do have various health challenges that we can deal with. Yeah, the bills, at least we don't have to deal with that kind of medical hell that she's talking about, which is nice. But I'm also American, though. Don't forget, I've seen both sides of it. Anyway, moving on to the next member's weekly win. She says, I had a great haircut and hair-apy. She calls it therapy from her stylist that she loves. And I had a massage that helped me relax. Plus, I returned to work after a medical absence and I was mostly productive, even though I'm not fully recovered yet. So that's really amazing for her. And then she goes on to add parenthetically at the end, also on behalf of all accountants, I'm sorry Susan doesn't know how to talk to people. That's a little nod to the comment that you have about how to respond to Susan in accounting. So I thought that was kind of funny. She's also an accountant.
It's so funny. Oh my gosh. I'd almost forgotten about that until I didn't even recognize it when I saw it in the sheet. But now that you tell me, I'm like, oh, I did say that. Yeah.
Yeah. We were supposed to respond to how do you respond to Susan in accounting who doesn't understand running and makes comments about your injury or something like that.
Yeah,
anyway,
there's always that one person who knows a little bit enough to be dangerous, and so you have to it's a lot of emotional work on your part, right? To be like, she means well, she really wants to connect with me, she's trying really hard, and she doesn't mean to say. I want to believe that most people don't mean to say the wrongest thing possible, but when a conversation or a comment doesn't land the way they intended to, when the thing that they say that they think is really kind and helpful is the opposite, I don't think people are well equipped for those types of conversations. So you just deny that it's happening and get mad at the person. It's almost easier to be like, yes, thank you, play along, perform, and walk out and keep your mouth shut. I'm really bad at that. I've been better at it at other points in my life, but I'm like, when I just kind of hit a point about 10 years ago where I was like, this isn't getting me anywhere. Even when I'm saying the right things and doing the right things and nodding along and having the wide-eyed, doe-eyed look, people still know it's an act, or they know that I'm performing. So I've never been so good that those little encounters with Susan in accounting wouldn't get me in trouble. So if anyone has tips in Runner Interrupted, we'd like to put them in the book. Let us know.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where you just have to realize this is not about me. It's just more about her or whoever it is that's saying it, and move on, because you can get really caught up in making it personal and taking things personally, which are not really meant to be intended that way. So, but I'm not always that great about that either. I have to say.
I mean, 2 years in bed is a long time. So people be like, oh, is that still going on? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
It's very much, it is not done yet.
Right.
And it was hurtful for me because I'm like, I have not been hiding it. I thought short of a daily woe is me post, which I tried really hard not to do, I don't think I concealed it, hid it, or lied about it in any way. I just tried to make it as not awkward for others as possible. Right? Like, hey, still here, still struggling, without, bringing them down to my, at sometimes incredibly low, borderline depressed emotional level. So I tell you that to say this, the most hurtful part is when someone's like, oh, shouldn't that be like the passing comment when they don't realize it's still happening. And I saw that is very much the case for a couple people in Runner Interrupted where, they see family members or whatnot and they're like, oh, that's still happening. And you're like, right. The people who know me most and they're supposed to love me most know the least about what's going on.
And then the next comment is, well, why are you still running? Or why do you care? Why do you still want to run? And that can make it even worse too. So anyway. So the last weekly win, and I'm not exactly sure if this is weekly win or if this was just a comment on the daily post, but I'll just count it as a weekly win anyway, because it sounds like it. She said she finally signed up for the premium Calm app yesterday and then actually took advantage of the quiet time before my family woke and meditated this morning. So the Calm is a great meditation app. I know you've talked about Headspace before, but I've used Calm, and Calm actually has some free material as well as you can pay for a subscription on there. And a few weeks ago, I actually put a little link to my playlist I have of YouTube meditation videos that are all, freely available. Although, like I said, there's a lot of paid content as well. And Calm is a great one. So anyway, she was able to take advantage of that. And that's great for her.
That's awesome. I think my husband uses Calm. I have to ask him. Alex, if you're watching, is it Calm that you use? I know he has one. So Headspace is the one that really attracted me because I liked the way he described emotions as clouds. Sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low, but they're going to be there. So you got to learn to kind of walk alongside them. And I loved that description so much. That's where I just not bothered to look at anything else. But I'm pretty sure calm is the one that he is really digging at the moment. So yay.
And that's all for the weekly wins.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, Coach Jen. Thank you for leading Runner Interrupted. I mean, it's to me, this is the group that really needs a coach the most. That tether is invaluable. And having been in that position, I appreciate what you do on a daily basis more than you could possibly understand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm trying. I'm hoping it's working out. And we did actually get a bit of feedback from people this week too about how they're using all the different parts of the program, and people really seem to like the daily texts and the other stuff that comes with the program, the daily stuff in the Training Peaks program, and so people are using it really well. And we'll get more feedback as we go along, I guess, too. So
I love it. That means the world to me. Thank you so much. And don't let me forget to schedule the end of the month coffee chat, because that is going to probably happen when I'm either in New York or we'll have just landed in New York. We'll work it out. I wanted it to be a Friday before I realized that the last Friday of this month of October, I'm going to be in New York with possibly sketchy internet.
Well, yeah, the last Friday is actually, you mean the first Friday in November is November 1st. And I'm actually going to be away that weekend too. So I'm not sure how we're going to work this out, but we'll have to figure something out.
We'll find a day and a time that works. We'll send a poll or something. We'll figure it out.
Okay, great. All right. I'll jump off here and listen to the rest.
Sounds good. Thanks again.
Okay.
For those of you just joining the program, that was Coach Jen, who is leading the Runner Interrupted group, which their basic suite of products for $30 you get access to all three. Runner Interrupted is for runners who are currently not running. It's a support program designed to get you back to whatever start line you choose, even if that start line is its sister program, Rebuild. Rebuild was designed to bring people back to running after a long period away. We don't really care why. We care how you get back in, and that your coach loved and guided every step of the way. And then the third suite of programs are called Maintain, and that's where our marathoners live. We just finished up the questions in Runner Interrupted, and now we're going to move over, while I pull up this document, hopefully not make too many mistakes, to Rebuild. Here we go. Question number 1. I notice a difference in my mobility in my left hip from my right hip when doing things like hip circles. What is the best way to address an imbalance like this? Work on that one more, stretch it more. See a physical therapist. And I know that sounds like a cop-out and a cheat, but I'm not a medical professional. And even if I could see you and touch you, I would still probably make the wrong determination there, because mobility is complicated. There are a whole lot of things that can go into a hip not working. It could come from your SI joint being out of place, meaning your hip bone is slightly shifted. It could be from your sacrum being slightly out of place. It could come from your pelvic floor. It could come from pressure on one side versus the other. It could come from any variety of things. It is never quite as simple. And this is actually where bad things happen, when we decide that this is simple and I don't need help, and I'm just gonna do. Whenever the word "just" pops into a sentence, you just need to throw the whole sentence away. I think I'm just gonna do this yoga video. No, you need to go see a PJ. So with that, the best way to address any sort of imbalance is absolutely to go to a physical therapist. I personally prefer doctors of physical therapy who have the OCS certification, who are also licensed for dry needling and manual therapy. That's the holy grail. Those are all the tools you would need. But if you don't know where to start, or it's not possible to find all four, then go ahead and find the DPT with the OCS certification. I personally prefer non-sports PTs, as we tend to diagnose on our way in, say, here's the problem, fix it. And we get real mad when people don't fix it the way that we requested they fix it. We don't like hearing that we got the problem wrong. So be open-minded, be patient. And if the advice you're getting is not working, absolutely advocate for yourself. But broadly and generally speaking, I have gotten the best results historically from folks who do not present themselves as sports type of physicians. But we can talk about that in a different podcast. So next question. There are heart rate and pace zones listed in Training Peaks. Should I be paying attention to them? Really don't know how to use them and probably won't ever touch most of those paces. Okay. When it comes to those zones, there are several different methods of calculating heart rate and pace zones. And it's not that I think that they're wrong, but we all know that the methodology is widely accepted is flawed because it's all of those zones are calculated contingent upon a maximum heart rate. And when your heart is a muscle, when we rep it to failure, when we max it out, you die. And we don't really want to go there. So the highest measured possible heart rate that you could achieve, let's say it's like 230 based on some calculation, that's still going to be a guesstimate. And again, it's not that we need to have that pure number, but when all the zones are based off of these theoretical numbers, I'm not convinced that it leads to better outcomes. So especially when you look at those bands, they're pretty narrow. It's like, okay, zone 1 ends at 130 and then zone 2 ends at like 138. If you've been training with me for a while, if you've been training by heart rate for a while, you know the difference between super duper easy effort and really easy / light effort. It's minimal. And it is easy to just sort of like charge up without paying any attention to it. 8 beats is not a huge difference. It's really easy to slide past it. Trying to stay under one number, 140, is treating it like a cap is so much easier than trying to stay within very narrow specified bands. So when it comes to those numbers in Training Peaks, the one and they update frequently. Again, it's not that they're bad and they're not wrong, but they're more for if you were working one-on-one with a coach, if you were attached to a coach in Training Peaks, those numbers would be more relevant for them. To kind of say this is what the system is calculated, that this person's critical power is on the bike versus in the water. So to that, it can be better than having to put an athlete through a whole lot of testing throughout the course of the year they arguably don't benefit from, because the testing for critical power, it's a pretty brutal test. And most of us really don't need to do it, because the end result wouldn't be far off from what you see in Training Peaks. Finally, you don't need to hit those paces. I'm never going to tell you to hit those paces, and they don't either. Remember that Training Peaks is a system that was created for high level Ironman triathlete training. So the rest of us mere mortals, we can just look at those numbers and go, haha, yeah, I don't even ever need to go faster than that one. Plus they conflate frequently when they're like, oh, your threshold is increased. The system will conflate a cardio an aerobic threshold versus an anaerobic threshold, and they don't use those terms the same way that I do in my coaching. So they exist for a reason, but no, there's no compelling reason for you to use them, and I can't think of a good reason to pay attention to them. The one number I would look for, or at least look at, is sometimes with the threshold, it's anaerobic threshold. And again, it doesn't note this, but if you do a hard workout and the system sends you a congratulatory email afterwards and it's like, congratulations, you have a new threshold. Take a look at that number. That is the system, that number that you're seeing, that threshold is a decent proxy for 10K pace. So if you look at that number and think, I do not want to run that for a 10K, cool. But if you look at that pace and it excites you and it makes you feel good, I could run 10 pace in that number. Cool, great. No one's saying you have to, but it's kind of like getting a gold star, a little gold sticker and being like, yay, I did good. Tuck it in your hat, feel good about it. Do nothing else with it. I prefer that we use data in that way. There's already so much in our lives that's going to tell us that we're underperforming and that we're less than. I just don't let that come out of Training Peaks at all into my headspace or into my hobbies, and I never will. And I hope you won't either. So, number 3, can we talk about routines for a moment? Yes. I usually roll, stretch, downward dog, hold and stretch for a few until my creaky old self can actually touch my toes. I feel you. Then I do silly toes, then a series of PT strength exercises I was given last year. The PT stuff takes about 10 minutes. The other, also about 10. Then I do strength on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and then head out. That sounds terrific to me. There's nothing I would change about that. I've said before, and I'll continue to say it, it's not a big deal. The reason that I do not assign specific stretches is because I have seen them go wrong so many ways. It's one of the reasons I hate going to the gym. Invariably, I'll see someone doing a quad stretch with their knee drawn way behind them, or forcing it too far forward. And I'm like, all you're doing is tearing up the cartilage in your knee and rupturing bursa sacs. I can hear bad things happening. And I don't ever want to be responsible for that, because one thing I have learned the hard way over time is that no matter what I say, only a fraction of the people will truly read all the instructions underneath it or watch the accompanying video to figure out when I say quad stretch, this is what I mean when I say quad stretch. It's to the point that I will often give workouts or stretches or moves that you've heard before a totally inane name that you can't possibly Google, because that way you are forced to come to my content and see what I'm talking about, so that at least you have one point of reference for doing it correctly. I feel that strongly about it. So to that end, what you talked about sounds just fine. I don't assign stretches because they could so easily go wrong. When I like to present it, do whatever you want to do, but the bare minimum is silly toes for really working, like warming up your tendons, joints, and ligaments, and making sure that your joints are lubricated. I hate that word lubricated. I wish there was a better word, but that really is what we're trying to achieve with silly toes, is really get your body ready to work. Because starting from a cold place is never a good thing. To go back to what Jennifer was saying about ankle issues, one of the things that came to mind for me is how we don't really, at least in America, we don't really take sprains seriously. We kind of think of them as one big bruise with a whole lot of swelling that looks really ugly. We don't think about the long-term damage to the tendon underneath. We'll go to a doctor, they'll wrap it, tell us to ice it, stay off it, and sometimes we do, most of the time we don't. But when it comes to ligaments, they're like rubber bands, like elastic. And once you've stretched it so far and it loses its elasticity, there's no way to bring it back. So what we should always strive to avoid is chronic tendinopathy. It's why I go run into Alex Lanton, my physical therapist, the second I've got a creak or a scratch somewhere that doesn't feel right or sound normal. So I know that is very much a privilege on my part. I understand that, like, not everyone has my health insurance. I totally get it. We've got really great health insurance. My husband is never quitting a job. So when it comes to, if you do have the option though, I cannot urge you strongly enough to exercise it. If you don't have the option, then some of this will be between the silly toes and the specific way I tell you to foam roll will cover. It'll go a really long way to make sure that we are caring for your tendons, joints, and ligaments the best way possible. So yes, nothing here sounds bad to me. I just can't assign PT stuff because I'm not a PT, and I always hesitate to assign more. Here's the rub. Most of the people that I train with are like, I really need to warm up. What does that mean? And I'm like, it means silly toes, whatever stretches you need to do, easing into the run for at least the first 20 minutes of it. And that's like, whoa, like that's already, well, I'm going to run for 60 minutes and you just added 20 minutes to it. So they just don't do any of the warm up. And I get it. We're all kind of crunched for time, but so I'm very cautious about what I give. If you do more than what I say to do, cool, do more. That's never a bad thing. What I beg people to do is don't do less than what I ask you to do. If we're going to cut something, let's cut the run short. Let's cut the reps out of the middle. Then let's cut a little bit out of the warm up. Let's leave the cool down as is as much as we possibly can. That's the order we have. If you go to the FPP hashtag FPP dictionary, the order of operations should be in Instagram under hashtag FPP dictionary, and you can see that the order of operations printed out very clearly. So, yeah, there's that. Sounds great. Keep it up, and absolutely keep seeing the PT. Still using the same exercises 2 years from now. I hope it's because the PT has told you don't stop. That's great. Do more of that, and not because you said, "Oh, I have PT exercises. I've not gone back." Okay. What do I need to know about heart rate variability, or HRV? Okay, when it comes to heart rate variability, when it came out, this was supposed to be like the next big thing. It's super exciting. And it was super exciting because what all of science has kind of been pointing towards when it comes to sports medicine, and in sort of coaching / training breakthrough, it's been in the area of determining overtraining before an athlete is in an overtrained state. Some of the basic things that we do now are really have been done since 1983, and my dad had to do a lot of them as part of his cardio rehab. Waking up in the morning and taking your resting heart rate immediately, not just at any point YOLO during the day when you're not moving. Okay, I'm at rest. No, it needs to be before the day has gotten in there, first thing in the morning. That is the lowest. Before the day has gotten in and things have taken off, that is the lowest point of the day. And it's also, if you get into the habit of doing it, same time, same place, same position every single day, then that data will be meaningful. It'll be as clean as we can possibly get it. When it comes to heart rate variability, though, it's a tricky metric to track. There are a lot of systems that do it pretty well. iFleet is great, and they have a little finger sensor that comes with it. Another one is Elite HRV. I use both, and the difference between the two, it's cost, and whether or not you want the output to be pushed to training peaks on a regular basis. My coach, I don't think she really kind of gives a crap what my HRV is. So I don't feel the need to have that push into training peaks for her sake. I do it for mine. But the reason that HRV is so tricky is it's a tricky measurement. You could take your HRV twice in a row, breathe differently each time, and get very different results. You could stay in the same position, move the heart rate monitor a little bit because you itched, and throw the results off completely. It's really hard to standardize, like most things in the human body. So it, as a predictor of whether or not you're overtrained, its importance has been a little bit overstated. It's not a bad data point to have, but it's not the be all end all. Final note on it, there's an article in Wearable that I ended up not putting in the nuzzle because it felt too technical, and I know that most people here don't use polars the way that I do. But the Polar Vantage V series has my best friend and I like to laugh about this a lot. It has a cardio score that tells you whether or not you're productive, whether you're maintaining, whether you're in the overtraining zone. And it's been telling me for a week now that I am losing fitness. So this article in Wearable it speaks to that directly, and it's like, what does that mean, and should you let your watch be your guide? And it gives a very convincing argument as to why you shouldn't, what this number means, and why it matters, and why it can also, you could have a trimp score of like 200, which is ridiculously high. That should be a red flag to the coach, and concurrent to a little sign over here that says that you're deep training and you need to work out more, instead of taking a day off, which your trimp score should be. So all of this is good information. None of it is perfect yet. There is no singular data point to rule them all. So that's what I would consider when it comes to HRV. It's good. It has value, but that value is highly variable and therefore highly, highly limited. I would take it with a grain of salt. Let's say that you are, and this is the final thing I'll say about it, let's say that you are in the habit of taking your HRV read first thing every single morning, and you are tired, you really don't want to get out of bed, and you take your HRV and it says that instead of doing that hard effort workout today, you need to really, really rest and recover and take that seriously. If you're not going to listen to me, listen to your HRV, because if your HRV tells you that you need recovery, you absolutely do. At the same time, it's possible that, like my watch, your heart rate variability will tell you that you're fine when you're not fine. You're just you're on the edge. You're not quite there. But that next workout could be what sends you into the red zone. So that's where I would take it seriously. If you're going to take it on a day when it says to rest and you agree with it, do that. Beyond that, I don't need you to spend the money on the fancier heart rate monitors, because you need to have a monitor that goes all the way around your chest. It has to read from 16 different points to get a good read. I would not tell you to sleep in your heart rate monitor so that you can wake up, have it, and definitely remember to do it like I've done before. It's not so important that you need to turn your life upside down or spend a whole ton of money to get it. If you're going to do that for a single data point, I would beg you to buy a Stride Pod, make that the data point. But again, there are limits to power as well, but that is another podcast. Okay. Those are all our questions from Rebuild. Moving over to Maintain. Yay, Maintain. want to say congratulations to everyone who raced this weekend. We've got Colleen Nagurney, who ran the Baltimore half, Ellen, who ran the Baltimore full, Adrian Holmes at MDI. That is hilly. That is Mount Desert Island Marathon in Maine is one of the races I give. It is literally on my hilly race lists. I go through it, break it down. It's why the sports is so tough. But frankly, the medal's worth it. That medal's amazing, Adrian. If you're here and you're watching the stream, if you could put the picture up, that would be awesome. If not, we're probably going to retweet. We're probably going to repost it through one of our Instagram accounts. Go check it out. We really do. Mount Desert Island does a lot of things right. It's a really great, teeny tiny race, but boy, those hills are huge. Christy Harris ran Amsterdam Marathon today, and boy, am I jealous. It's one of my favorites. I really want to go back and do that again someday. Robin Sauer Murphy, Cocoa Beach half. Yay, you! And then Gretchen Gibson ran the Columbus half. Congratulations to everyone who ran, and also congratulations to everyone who made the empowered decision not to race this weekend as they planned. For one reason or another, we are here to celebrate wins and making a good decision, a tough decision, and decide a decision to DNS. That is a win because that is such a difficult decision to make. I've watched all kinds of people start races they never should have started. So I would say that they DNF'd for the right reasons, but started for the wrong ones. So I'm always proud when a person decides not to toe the start line, and I always will be. You are not less than, you are more than, because listening to your body is the most advanced thing a runner or a person in general could possibly do. We need that on a t-shirt, Kara. Here are the questions. Number one, watch question. I think it's time for a new one as the strap on my Polar M430 keeps separating from the watch face. Ugh. Other than that, I like the 430. I do too. I definitely want wrist-based heart rate. I know it's less accurate, but I always misplace my chest strap. I feel you, ADHD. I feel you. Any suggestions? I'd be willing to spend a bit more for the right watch since I use it so much. I started researching and got overwhelmed quickly. Don't need a ton of bells and whistles, just for running and waterproof. Okay, so the things that I look for in a running watch, generally speaking, can all be found in the 430. And what I don't like touch screens for a variety of reasons. The biggest one is that they fail in the winter. So if it's a touch screen with no buttons, I'm not going to buy it and I'm not going to recommend it. Especially if like, you live in a place where it's cold, and you're going to be wearing mittens in the winter. It's not a lot of fun. Or conversely, if you live somewhere really, really hot and humid, and every time you run, you sweat a whole lot, you need those buttons too, because the sweat can undo what happens when you touch a touch screen. So to that end, I gotta say, I really like my Polar Vantage V. The M's, Coach Sarah, I asked her about it, but she just bought the M series to replace her 430. She was having some similar issues with it. And ask her if she likes it. The reason I got the V over the M was for the integration of power, because I do have the Stride Pod. Again, I'm not saying you should run out and buy a Stride Pod. That's $250. They're really, really interesting, but it's a very steep learning curve. I've been wearing one now for almost a year. And I've only kind of gotten the hang of understanding what it's telling me and the predictive values. And I did all the reading accordingly. It's just a different way of looking at the same thing that I've been doing for 5 years. So with that said, you can the Polar the M series, not the Vantage. There's the M series. The Polar M series is supposed to be really terrific. Sarah got one. My understanding is that she's liking it. It's way lighter, and we don't have the strap peeling issue at all. So that's what I see. My best running friend runs, I'm reasonably certain, with a Garmin Phoenix. And those were created for multisport. So I've never really given them a lot of thought, because again, I'm not a multisporter. I don't like swimming. If I can avoid water, I want to sit in the water. I don't actually want to have to propel my body across it. Plus I don't really know how to swim. All y'all fancy people taking swimming lessons as children, we didn't do that. That country, it looks like you just stay out of the water. There's snakes in there. Water moccasins live in my area. Ugh. Anyway, so with that in mind, I can recommend what I use, or the cheaper version of what I use, very, very strongly. I hear the Phoenix is good. Beyond that, I haven't gone and tried the Corex, which again, the Chorus. Chorus is supposed to be fantastic. They were designed for ultra runners to have like the longest battery life possible. But now in lots and lots of watches. I think it's bipolar. I know it exists in most of the Garmin's. You can change the way it reads with it connects to the satellites to extend the battery power. So you get a little less accurate minute by minute information on pace, but you can extend your battery life by like 5 to 6 hours or something ridiculous. So there are a lot of good options. Think about really what you need to get and what you're willing to spend. They're like, I can tell you that my watch is worth the $500 I paid for it. I can also tell you that you don't need to spend $500 on a watch. So think about what it is that you need to get out of it. You know, you want something that has the optical sensor. Cool. That's pretty standard now. You'll have a lot of options, but realistically, it is easy to get overwhelmed with all the options that exist. I say think about the bare minimum of what you need to get, and then don't get too dazzled about anything beyond that. I wanted buttons. I wanted a strap option. I wanted a particular type of read, which is why I went with Polar. It's a very different algorithm to Garmin's, and I prefer it for heart rate. And again, not to go down the rabbit hole and overload you with information or highly technical information that really isn't going to help you make a better decision. I would say just think about what the attributes matter the most to you. That is really what matters the most to me. Final note, I have been using Polars for so long now that the few times I've tried running with Garmin's, I really didn't like it. Because they work differently. I don't know, it's a different look and different feel to what I'm used to. And I'm so deep down the Polar rabbit hole now, I don't know that I'll be able to back my way out anytime soon. But that's no reason why you shouldn't try if there's Garmin out there that you like. Garmin Polar pays us nothing, and I just happen to like it. I don't even get a discount. They recently did a 20% off discount, and we'll probably be having another one coming up soon. They do them frequently throughout the year. Next question. I'm really loving training with fitness protection. Yay! Thank you. Since I'm not getting paid yet, I need to hear that as much as humanly possible. I need to hear all the wins and what's working. I enjoy having a training plan without the pressure of having a goal race. Word. In fact, this is the first fall in several years where I haven't raced, and it is glorious for right now. I know it's early yet, but do you think you'll have training plans for 3 days at the fair for those of us who may have some big goals in mind? Yes. In the email, the newsletter that went out yesterday from me, from Fitness Protection, you should have seen at the very top, I asked you to reply to that email and tell me what distances you are considering if you are considering 3 days at the fair. I encourage everyone to consider 3 days at the fair. It's going to be a lot of fun. So far, the number keeps rising. We've got like 35 people now that are talking about coming. I'm not going to lie to you. Part of the reason I like it is because entertainment is there and food is there, and I don't have to prepare anything, which is great. But we can be there and have a big old time and have a whole lot of fun. And because it's a 1 mile loop, it is very easy to spectate and support. And I love that. If you were to come, try to see me in the New York City Marathon, I'd be like, why? The chances of you seeing me run past you in one spot it's so tiny that it's almost not worth whatever effort it would take for you to get there, unless you're willing to wait for me at the finish line and help me walk back to my hotel. If my husband can't join me on the trip, I would love that. You want to watch me walk, watch me stumble at the end of the race. But what makes 3 days at the fair so special with that 1 mile loop is that everyone you came to see, you can see them over and over and over. There's no chance that you would show up and not be able to cheer them on in a substantial way. And that's part of what makes it so cool to cheertate and spectate and coach for. So if you're a runner interrupted, even if you don't think you can run, there's no reason why you can't participate in some aspect of the weekend. Reach out, let us know, RSVP, and do consider it. If you're thinking of running something longer than your standard marathon, I need to know how many people are interested in this, but I am, in fact, writing a plan for 3 different options, just to have them, because I know somebody's going to ask. One of them is the stacked marathon option, where you'd be doing 1 marathon a day for either 2, 3, or 4 days in a row. Another is the 100-hour option, meaning you have run as many miles as you possibly can, stop as much as you need to, but as many miles as you can possibly get in 100 hours, 144 hours, I think it is. And then finally, I'm coming up with 50-mile and 100-mile options as well. So if any of that sounds like your bag, do let me know. We will talk it out, but I need to know that there's going to be demand before I like spend a whole lot of time throwing supply at you guys, because I don't want there to be pressure to show up for this and do more. What I want it to be is pressure to just come out and have a whole lot of fun. The thing that I like the most about 3 days at the fair, and I'll stop with this and go back to the rest of your question. The thing that I like the most about 3 days at the fair is the fact that this is the one event that everyone can participate in. This is how Susan sold me on it. Well played, Susan. And I absolutely stand by it. This is, of any other place I could bring a person. If I were to bring you to New York, you might be a little sad that you're not running the marathon. You might be a little sad that you lost the lottery. You might be a little sad that you can't really do what everyone else is doing, and it's not really your day or your experience. 3 days at the fair is so unique and it's so new that, quite frankly, I can't imagine anyone showing up and feeling less than because they can't do the runs or because they can only walk or whatever. I feel like I had a lot of fun spectating it. I don't really have a huge desire to participate, which is nothing about the race. It is just that much fun to spectate. It was that much fun just to be there and not have to run. And I would encourage you to kind of look at, do what I'm doing, not what, don't. Not a do as I say, not as I do moment. This is what I'm actually doing. I'm going to spectate. I'm going to cheer. And I'm going to coach. And if you're a runner interrupted or a rebuilder, I would love to have you join me. If you have a bigger goal and you don't live near trails, you know what? This is a trail event. This is an ultra type event that you absolutely could train for. And it's super cool and it's really fascinating. So I hope everyone will consider coming to 3 days at the fair. You can RSVP on the Fitness Protection website, fitnessprotection.com/events. Get on to the rest of the question. Do you think you'll have training plans for people with big goals? I'm thinking about doing the 24-hour race and trying for 40 miles since I'm turning 40 this year. Yay! I love that. It is liberating to know that I only have to race if I want to, and I don't have to race just to have a training plan. Awesome. After my dad had his heart attack, I don't spend a lot of time talking about this. My parents are still alive. It was hard. It was really hard. We were cash strapped. Times were tough, and they were tough for a really long time. When you don't have money, what makes life complicated is because you feel like you don't have options. There's only one option or one choice anywhere you go that you can afford. And rather than being grateful, it's hard to be grateful for that choice when you don't like that choice at all. Or when other people say, well, why didn't you do? And they don't understand why those options aren't open or available to you. So I tell you that to tell you this. I've designed all of this to maximize your utility, which to me means maximizing your options. And that if you train the way that I do, the way that I ask you to train and maintain, you can do whatever you want all the time. It is very important to me that you have as many options as humanly possible with minimum time to ramp up. And we can do so much more when we truly maintain in between training cycles, because what we think we're going to do and what we actually do without a plan, without a coach, without a structure, without a training group, I would argue you don't need the pressure of a race. No one does. What you need is the support. And that's what we aim to provide. Maximum support, maximum options, minimum pressure, frankly, minimum cost. Be great. So yeah, I'm really glad that this is working for you and it's having the intended effect. Again, until I'm bringing home a paycheck, I live for these moments when people tell me that it's working. Hi, coaches. I'm looking forward to my first trail 50K in July to celebrate my 50th birthday. Whoop, whoop. I am lucky to live in a beautiful, if very hilly place, so getting on trails is not a problem when I can run in the daylight. Good word. I have started switching some of my runs to trail to get my body ready. You need to. The difference is locomotion, and I talk about that. I mean, I know it's a funny sounding word, but really, it really means how your body moves forward. And when you're on a hard, compacted surface like road or asphalt, every time your foot strikes, there's a bit of energy return back into your leg. That does not happen on dirt or rocks or anything that is loosely packed. That energy return is gone, which means that you are more reliant on power to move forward. You could, trail runners who then get on the road learn the hard way how long it takes to adapt your joints to transition. It is a painful transition to go from trails to road. Going from road to trails is easier on your joints, but way harder on your muscles because they have to work so much harder because you've taken away that assist that comes from perfect energy return with every single foot strike. So that is the biggest consideration of getting on trails, and why, if you're doing a trail 50K, you need to be on trails as much as you possibly can. So the next question, how much should I do on trail? All of it. Absolutely all the long runs, 2 to 3 days a week, realistically. And look, it is not, I do not think it is wise at all to do very much trail running if you're training for performance, in a road race that is longer than a half marathon. But the reverse can be true. It is okay to do some road running while training for a trail race. And again, it's just comes down to the specificity of the sport, what the sport's going to demand. You need to get very, very, very used to powering forward without that assist as much as you can. And I really don't. If you're having to drive 30 minutes, I know you said that you live near trails, but if you're having to spend 40 minutes a day, 20 minutes to get there, 20 minutes back, something that's easy and accessible once a week sometimes doesn't feel as easy or as accessible if we have to do it multiple times a week. So I wouldn't turn your life upside down to make this happen, but definitely the long run sandwich, if you can. So long run for sure. Second best, long run sandwich. And the one of the harder effort workouts. So like Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, or Monday, Friday, Saturday. There's virtually no difference between Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, Friday, Saturday. It's just whatever really is going to work out best for you. So I would like to be able to YOLO a road 10K or half before next summer, so I need to put some road running. I guess, is there an ideal balance? It depends on. It's not like you're going to lose all the adaptations. So with the trail coming up in July, then we can keep you on the roads a couple days a week, and then we would just need to swap you over. I guess if you really wanted to like dominate that road 10K and like really race the bejesus out of it, then let's say for the 6 weeks prior, let's try to keep all your weekday runs on the road and your long run on the trail. And then as soon as the road race is behind you, we would migrate strictly to trails, get you ready for that 50K. That is what I would do. Your next question is about poles. I think it would help me to get some now and start practicing how to use them. Yes, I agree with that. Depending on the race, I don't remember offhand, you didn't listen to hear which 50K it is that you want to do, but I know that you're in the UK, and I know that the UK is really hilly. What the poles are a godsend. They're good to have. They are not a must-have, but if there's a chance that the trail will be muddy, if there are mudslides or lots and lots of rain, where this race is that time of year, then yes, you need to get real used to using poles now. It's just a different demand on your body and a different demand on your back and your shoulders. And I would prefer nothing new on race day, including poles. Poles can be really helpful if you have some practice with them. I wouldn't stress out about it. But I go ahead and grab, if you know that you're definitely more likely than not going to need them at the race, and go ahead and buy a pair and start practicing on your long runs. It can't hurt. It really can't. So yeah, I believe it was either Myrna Valero or Latoya Snell talked about some event that they did. I want to say it was last summer. They didn't think they would need poles. I want to say it was Myrna at Trans Rockies. She didn't think she would need poles or didn't bring them, but I don't want to misspeak, but I think one of the two of them had an experience where they did not use poles and talked about they hadn't trained with poles, or they showed up and were like, oh, I've used poles before, I'll be fine. And it was not fine. Their shoulders really hurt and their upper back really hurt because it's different having to like how you have to use the pole when you need that pole to pull yourself forward. If you aren't mentally and physically ready for that, it can actually negatively impact the racing experience. So, you know what? It was with Nathan. It was when I met Latoya in Boulder with the other Nathan ambassadors, and it was some pro talking about it, laughing at themselves, their first experience using poles, borrowing them the night before the race and showing up. So there you go. I don't know if I'll go see if I can find an article about it somewhere, but long story short, if you think there's a chance you might need poles now, how soon is now? It's not too soon at all to start. There you go. Thank you as always, for your love and care. I love you more, Karen Sutton. I promise I do. Next question. Silly question, I think. Where do I find the marathon ramp plans? I'm thinking of tackling my second marathon, but want to look at the time commitment. Thanks. Not a silly question at all. We put them in the files section of the Facebook group in the maintain Facebook group. So maintain in the Facebook group, go under the files. It should be like if you're on a desktop, it should be on the left side of the screen. Click the files tab and you should see the files listed in there. We will be once we have finalized the race plans, we'll be making a home for them, and frankly, giving them away on the website to anyone who wants them, because I've said all along, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the plans are completely useless if you are not part of the program and you're not working with Coach. So I'm totally fine to give those away, and we'll be doing that soon. Feel free to share with your friends once you have it in your hands. But yeah, for now, the time commitment is only 10 weeks. I'm a big believer in maintaining a bigger than what some coaches would recommend cardio based in between training cycles, mainly because either we're planning, these are for sure the races I'm going to do, and then not doing enough and only ramping up the last minute because we're efficient, or something comes up and then we feel like we can't participate. And that can be really frustrating too. So what's all this fitness for, if not for being able to do whatever it is that I want to do? Again, to make sure that you have maximum optionality, I try to minimize the pressure and the time commitment of the marathon itself. If you're doing 1 2 hour, 30-minute long run every month for 2 to 3 months, you really don't need a whole lot more than that to get ready for a marathon. I don't know this for a fact, but my personal belief is that part of the reason the base building cycle has become longer and longer in most race plans in recent years is that people are trying to get fit now. Thank you, Biggest Loser, by training for marathons instead of waiting or working out with the goal of getting fit enough to train for a marathon someday. So we've had to, seeing the people coming in the door, we've had to adjust the pipeline, the pathway to the marathon accordingly, so that people don't get hurt. So if we keep a great big base year round, you really don't need that much time to ramp up. And that is what we do and maintain. Final question. I have a question about sleep and overtraining. What? Yep. A while back, you said it's a red flag if we're having trouble running consistently. That's me. Even dropping all runs to easy effort or short stride sandwiches, I'm having trouble getting going. For several months, I've been missing out on the joy in running. Is this overtraining? What do I do? I still want to love running, but the minute the alarm goes off every day, I just want to quit. Okay. I feel you. My best advice is to go take a look at week 1 of lane 2 of rebuild. Just do that. Honestly, you do sound overtrained to me. Either that or there's a lot going on in your life. And remember, the body does not differentiate between psychological and physiological stress. So if you're managing a heavier load in other parts of your life, it is not a big deal to move over, not drop down, move over to rebuild until the storm passes by, and then ramp back up when you're ready to ramp up. So the way I encourage people to think about this is, am I ready for more work? Do I want less work? And it's a little different work for sure in rebuild, but it's also considerably less of a time suck. So if putting everything to easy effort isn't cutting the mustard, then let's go back to absolute basics. Let's just be trying to move minimum 4, preferably 5 days per week. If you don't have a race on the horizon, and from the way that you sound like you're talking right now, that it doesn't seem like there's going to be a race on your horizon anytime soon. I normally don't like cutting the long run, because when we cut the long run, we limit your options severely. But it sounds like that might need to be what you do for a while. So try this. Take a look rather than before throwing out what you've got going in your training picture right now, because making those changes is a little frustrating and I don't like them either. Try this tomorrow. take the day off. Just don't do it. Even if you take the day off, don't take Monday off. Tuesday, let's do 30 minutes easy effort or walk. I really don't care. I care that you're on your feet, your body, your ankles bearing your body's weight. Wednesday, give me 20 or 30 minutes of easy effort running or walking. Thursday, let's take the day off. Friday, give me 20 or 30 minutes of easy effort running or walking. And then Saturday, give me 45 minutes of easy effort running or walking. If you aren't climbing the walls a little bit at the end of that severe cutback week, then we're definitely overtrained and we might need another cutback week just like it. So it doesn't mean that there's something like wrong with you. It just means that right now your system is stressed and it's literally overloaded. With that in mind, more work, trying to force the work, it's not going to do you any good. In fact, it could make things a whole lot worse. So I want to first congratulate you on making an empowered choice. I want to thank you for asking that question. I want you to know that I absolutely mean it when I say that listening to your body is the most advanced thing a person can do. It's also badass AF, and I'm so, so proud to be your coach. These choices are hard to make. I know, again, because I've been there recently. I was overtrained a couple of weeks ago and I hated having to take that cutback, but I really, really needed it. And I hated it because I felt weak. What does it say about me? I've only been doing this for a few weeks and I already need a cutback. And then I had to go back and take a look and say, hey, you know what? You had abdominal surgery 2 months ago. Of course, you were going to struggle a little bit with your first 46-mile week in a year. So give yourself credit for what you have done. Give yourself credit for this really tough decision. And don't try to read into what it says about you, because it doesn't say anything to me other than you are tenacious AF and you're a badass who's advocating for herself right now. This is what it looks like. It's the best example you could possibly set for yourself, for your kids, and frankly, for my kids. So way to go. Way to do that. You are coached, you are loved. And even in those minutes when it doesn't feel like it because you're tired, I promise you're winning at life. So that is it. Those are all the questions we have. We're right over an hour, or right at an hour, because I think I was a little bit late. But yay. If I'm going to look over here, I do not see any follow-up questions in Twitch. I do not see any follow-up questions in the Facebook room. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this live stream. Keep a lookout. We've got big things coming down the pike. We've got another mini teaser broadcast that's going to be coming out from Amy. Yay! Amazing Amy made something for us, and we're going to be releasing that, I believe, on Tuesday, right after this goes out, after Ask the Coach goes out. And next week, we're going to be introducing some new special recurring guests to the podcast. And I could not be more excited to introduce them to you. That's it. This is Coach MK of the Fitness Protection Program, reminding all of my runners that 6 is greater than 4. And we're going to have physicists come and do a live stream and talk a little bit about that. How, you know what, it is not the same amount of work to run a 4-hour race as it is a 6-hour race. That is an inappropriate use of mathematics and physics, and we're not going to abide it. And we're going to talk about exactly why they are wrong and exactly what that means. Science is real hard. So is marathons. Yay! You're coached. You are loved. Let's go kick this stage off. Who was at the marathon?